U sredu, 19. aprila, u organizaciji Matice srpske i Instituta za evropske studije održano je predavanje pod nazivom Morfologija istorije Osvalda Špenglera, na koje je govorio profesor dr. Gerd Morgentaler. Profesor Morgentaler doktorirao je pravne nauke na Univerzitetu u Heidelbergu, a predaje na Univerzitetu u Zigenu u Nemačkoj. Jedan je od vodećih ljudi u Društvu Osvald Špengler, koje se bavi izučavanjem Špenglerove teorije i sarađuje sa konzervativnim misliocima širom sveta. Imali smo tu čast i zadovoljstvo da profesor Morgentaler ekskluzivno govori za Arheofuturu. Špengler je sa velikom tačnošću predvideo niz događaja i procesa na zapadu koji dolaze. Od uspona svetskih gradova, kulture novca, pojavljivanja radikalnog feminizma, trijumfa novca u politici, opadanja fertiliteta, prihvatanja avangardnih kulturnih senzibiliteta od strane najširih narodnih masa, kao i na razvijanje opšteg cinizma i kosmopolitizma i povijenje pod uništavanjem starih kulturnih istina. I ovo sve podveo pod kulturnu i društvenu dekadenciju i opadanje. Koji su po vama najjasniji znaci definitivnog pada zapada, bez opcije povratka na staro?
Well, the clearest signs of this movement or this development that Oswald Spengler predicted is the formation of one unified global world in which we have actors or very strong corporations and other similar actors who dominate the development. And on the other side, we have individualization and fragmentation of the individuals, of the humans, and therefore a tendency away from the democratic nation state with the rule of law and all the other establishments of the liberal phase, and towards great governance, globalized governance, which we see now.
Špenglerovo delo pretrpelo je razne kritike i one su manje više poznate od stila koji je pesnički nadahnut i odvojen od klasičnog naučnog pristupa i bez mnogo referenci, metoda koji je koristio u svom radu pa do prigovora da ima fatalistički pristup istoriji. Međutim, za ovu priliku interesuje nas odnos Špenglerove teorije i hrišćanstva. Zbog čega je Špengler u svom radu stao do granice koja razdvaja čulno i metafizičko? On detektuje metafizički doživljaj u svom budnom biću, ali tu staje. On se u pojedinim segmentima bavi religijom, ali joj ne daje centralno mesto u svojoj teoriji. Zbog čega je po vašem mišljenju izabrao ovakav pristup?
Well, Spengler's morphological approach, as he himself calls it, is based on a simple comparison. He does not look for any metaphysical or other backgrounds of the world development, of historical development, but he simply compares. And he says that if we look back in history and see the old civilizations that have existed before our own Western civilization, he can find and describe certain steps in their development that goes from childhood to youth and to maturity and then to an old age, which can be found in every civilization that ever existed in the world. And although all these civilizations have a very different character that is expressed in its worldview, we can see that these phases just described will always appear, and so far at least every civilization that has existed has also ended. Ended means that it may still have left its traces on Earth, but it is no longer vivid. It can no longer develop. It is at a final stage, and it may survive and exist for centuries even after its collapse, but it will no longer thrive and develop itself. And this is his approach. He does not go beyond that in a metaphysical way, but simply accepts these parallels and asks us to think about these parallels.
Živimo u vremenu gde vlada gotovo verska opčinjenost tehnologijom. U kulturološkim razvalinama, opštoj dekadenciji, smrti metafizike i konstantnoj strepnji od ekološkog ili nuklearnog armagedona, čini se da se sve nade polažu u tehniku i tehnologiju. Može li se tehnologijom premostiti urušavanje civilizacijskog oslonca ili ćemo jednostavno završiti u distopijskom svetu cyberpunk?
Well, this is what he describes for the end of every civilization, that there is materialism, that religion in itself has long before ended, or at least ended to be a decisive force in the development of society, and that this has gone over into a kind of metaphysics of a more worldly kind, and then at last even this will end. There is no spiritual incentive anymore, but mere materialism in the end, and mere power politics accordingly. This can be camouflaged with certain pseudo-religious movements coming up, but these are mere ideologies by lunatics or used by the rational power politicians who simply use them for or instrumentalize them for their own goals. And he says that as far as we have seen in the past, this is always the last step in every civilization, and he prognoses that prophesies that this will also be the last step in our Western civilization: materialism, power politics, and in the end a kind of Caesarism before the whole system will collapse.
Kada smo kod cezarizma, da li je pojava Donalda Trumpa označila da nam se epoha Cezara približava? I sa kojim vladarom drevnog Rima biste vi uporedili Trumpov dolazak na vlast?
Well, I don't know exactly, but we can think about it. Perhaps Trump can be compared to Crassus in Rome. He was extremely rich and was politically ambitious and opposed the Senate party, which was the representation of the powerful higher classes in the Roman Empire. He opposed them in the name of populism and was not successful. He was not successful because he was not the type of person who could attract followers. And so he took Julius Caesar, a young rising star in the political arena who needed the money support of Crassus, and but was himself the character who could attract followers. And Caesar, in fact, became the first Caesar, as we all call them now, but then he was killed. But this was perhaps one of the forerunners, so to say. Crassus might have been one of the forerunners of Trump, who might have a similar fate and might have the idea, or a similar person like Trump may have the idea of taking a successful politician and endowing him with money and support to get into power, and then rule like Augustus in the Roman Empire, who then managed to overcome the party structures, the divided structure of the Roman political scenery, and to subject them both. He ruled, in fact, with program that was the populist program, saying that he worked for, as Augustus, as princeps, he worked for the broader population, and he worked in the sense, in this certain, in a certain way, conservative sense that the broad population desired. But on the other hand, he also used the oligarchy, the very rich senators and their families, as his support, as long as they refrained from trying to make politics themselves. He let them live, he let them make money, and he bound them into his system, which was the so-called Caesarism then.
Poreklo vaše porodice je iz ovih krajeva. To je razlog više vaše zainteresovanosti za srpsku kulturu. Da li smatrate da srpska kultura kao deo slovenskog sveta ima u sebi dovoljno vitalizma da u daljoj budućnosti izađe iz zapadne pseudomorfoze i da na kraju izbegne sudbinu propasti zapadnog sveta?
Well, if we consider this question in terms of Špengler, Serbia has long been influenced by the former East Roman and Arabian civilization, what he sees as one civilization. This is a strange idea, but convincing if you think about it, that this old civilization started around the birth of Jesus Christ in the year 0, and it lasted until about the year 1000 when the Caliphate collapsed. And this was one civilization for him, and the civilization has in a certain form survived. It was no longer vivid, it was dead after 1000, but it has stayed in the region and has formed the thinking. And the Western civilization was more in Central Europe and Western Europe. And it is now expanding, but in a superficial way, in a way in which, and at a time in which its own end has come, and its own soul, in the terminology of Špengler, is ending. Its own spirit is ending, and it's just a materialistic and powerful empire now. But it will not be able to take roots beyond its former core area. And the other thing that he hints to, Špengler, is the possibility of an upcoming Orthodox civilization, a new civilization. The main area of this civilization is Russia, according to him. Russia is the future civilization, but we could see all these Orthodox states that have gone forth from the Greek Orthodox Byzantine civilization as the new field where this new Orthodox civilization might arise. But this was speculation at his time, and I think it's still speculation today. But on the other hand, for thinkers here in Serbia, it might be very interesting to investigate in his ideas, to read Špengler in this respect, and to try to apply his ideas to their own situation.
Osim Špenglerovog kapitalnog dela Propast zapada, koju biste sledeću njegovu knjigu istakli po važnosti i zašto?
Oh, he wrote a couple of more books after his decline of the West. They were not as voluminous and are not as well known, but were very important in the political context of these times and are still very interesting historically, not only historically, also because of the ideas he expresses in these books. And there are at least two I would mention. One of them is Preußentum und Sozialismus. This means Prussianism. I don't know the official translation of the title, Prussianism and Socialism.
Yeah.
And the other one is Jahre der Entscheidung, Years of Decision, which he wrote in the face of the upcoming National Socialist movement. The National Socialists thought he was one of theirs. and he openly opposed to them. And it was probably the most critical book which could still be published under the rule of the National Socialists at the time. And it is very interesting to read this book.
Profesore, zahvaljujem vam se na izdvojenom vremenu za ovaj razgovor.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.